Welcome to this special edition of the YAHOWAH blog. It's always fun to begin a new series, and this one is based upon the man from Edom. It is actually a continuation of the previous series, which was devoted to the identity and the purpose of the children, because they are actually one and the same, and they are presented to us by the same prophet, that being Yahowah. In fact, no matter where we look in Yahowah, almost everything the prophet has to say somehow points back to or toward the future from Yahowah's perspective, and to the Choder, the Bashar, who is the herald, to the Nakar, who is the observant foreigner, to the Kol, who serves as the voice of God, to the Zeroah, who is the one who is cultivating the seeds for the harvest, and for what we will learn is the Bo Men Edom, the one who comes from Edom. In this particular case, this individual, the same as Yahowah has inspired Yahowah to speak of all the way through his book, actually strikes an extremely emotional chord with Yahowah. It's one of the most emotional moments in the entirety of the prophets. And it is also one of the most expressive in terms of what it means for Yisrael. The prophet is twice inspired to say that this man from Edom is responsible for saving Yisrael. In fact, the implications are that he is responsible for saving the planet. And that's what would occur according to what Yahowah revealed through Malachi, the final prophet, in his final chapter, is that if it weren't for the final witness, Yahowah wouldn't return with doubt and would destroy the planet as opposed to restoring it. So there's a lot at stake here, and what we're all trying to do is convey the same message, which is that Yisrael, God's people, Yehudim, have been wayward and estranged, embittered and rebellious for 3,450 years. It's a long time to pretend that you're God's people and act otherwise. You were, God chose you. You just haven't chosen him in return. You were audacious in telling God to shut up and to go away, that you never wanted to hear from him again. And you had, speaking of audacious, the audacity to erase God's name from his own Torah and prophets, and then you removed him from your lives. And right now you're fighting for your lives and not doing a very good job at it. You know, the news today is that Netanyahu is parading all around with now IDF soldiers wearing masks. They look like they had a green headband. They could be Hamas. And he is pounding the drums of war, and everyone is saying, oh, God, we're going to go back in and we're really going to give them hell this time. We're going to go pound at Gaza. And I keep begging Israel, and I begged you since 10/7 of 23 when I wrote an open letter to Israel at war with religion. It's published in the first volume of Goddamn Religion. It's published on the website at yadayah.com. It's part of several YAHOWAH blogs that I have done. That if you invade Gaza, which I knew you would, you'll make a bad situation worse. Because no one has ever won a war against a religion with bullets and bombs or with swords and any other kind of weapon. When you fight a religion, and you need to fight Islam, because if you do not combat Islam, Islam will destroy you. Islam was conceived to perpetrate genocide on all humankind, beginning with Jews. And Muhammad and Allah had their way with Jews in Arabia, effectively killing all of them. And so that's what you're up against. 10:7 was nothing more than an expression of Islam. It was exactly what happened in Yathrib when the last remnant of the Jews were killed. It is nothing more than a reenactment of what happened in Kabar, all under Muhammad's leadership, as he was a ruthless anti-Semite and terrorist. And so knowing this is essential to saving you, and part of the job of this man from Edom who is dressed in red because he has been willing to defend Israel from this horrible foe, and he will actually sacrifice his life to save Israel, is a man in red. He's been bloodied in his defense of you. And since I am that man, I have earned the right and will continue to earn the right to speak to you this way, Israel. It shouldn't have been necessary. But as we will learn, Yahweh searched through the centuries to find a single Yehud, a single Israelite through whom he could speak, through whom he could act, who was willing to listen to him. And you know how many he found in 2,700 years? 0. I am here looking you in the eye, speaking to you this way, because God couldn't find anyone else. He couldn't encourage a single one of you to pay attention to him. And why I may have many qualifications that God found appealing, it doesn't even matter. I was the only one who was willing to listen to him. And he did the rest. So the story I'm telling you is actually my story. It's a story written by the greatest of the prophets in Yahowah. You need evidence of this, you'll find the great Isaiah scroll, the entirety of his message in the dome of the scroll. It's all there. It's all printed online if you'd like to read the great Isaiah scroll there as well. The entire book, as I have mentioned, is a textbook on how to perform in accordance with the instructions provided to the choter, which is the stem off the main branch, the sucker who provides new life for the stump, who is empowered and enabled and emboldened by the 7 spirits of Yahweh, as is never before. And while that is the basis of the entire 11th chapter of Yahowah, the entire book continues to speak of him using a variety of different names. And what we're going to pursue now is the prologue preceding the introduction of the man from Edom, because it's essential to know the context into which God is introducing this man that through whom he will save his people. For the sake of Zion, for the benefit of and with regard to the signs posted along the way. I dare say that prior to me writing these books behind you under the Yada Yahowah brand, that there wasn't a single person on earth who knew what Zion meant, or that would share it with the world. Zion is not a political ideology. Zion is not a religious mantra, which is how it's depicted everywhere that you will read it. In fact, it's even misspelled with a Z. There is a Z in the Hebrew alphabet, but Zion's not written that way. It's written with the Tasday, with the T-S-Y-O-W-N. In fact, it's Tasday, Yod, Wah, Nun. And since it does not speak of a political aspiration or of a religious dogma, it is important to know that what Zion actually means is signs posted along the way. It is not so much a mountain as it is a ridge line on a prominent mountain, the most prominent mountain in the world, Moriah, which means to revere Yahweh. On the top of the summit of that mountain once stood the home for the covenant family and for Yahweh's name. It is now blighted with the boil of the Dome of the Rock and stained with the scar of Alaska Mosque. I will tell you, so that there is no misunderstanding, as the man from Edom, I will remove both. I will cleanse the Temple Mount, and Yahweh will erect a replica of the tent of the witness for us to reside within during the 3.5 years that Elia and I try to awaken this final remnant of Yisrael during the last 3.5 years, the second half of the time of Jacob's troubles. And we will proclaim the message of those signs that are posted along the way. Those signs are actually presented between Dod's home, and he is the exemplar of the covenant. He is the one through whom Yahweh enabled the covenant. He is the one who in 33 CE fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim. He is the actual Messiah and Son of God and returning King. He is the man that the Christian counterfeit of Jesus Christ was comprised through identity theft. Dod is the one. And it is his message about the covenant and about Yahweh that is written on those signs that lead from his home, the exemplar of the covenant, to Yahweh's home, which is the family home for those willing to embrace and bear Yahweh's name. It's a long introduction to the first word, isn't it? Well, it's La Ma'am, Zion, for the sake of Zion, for the sake of the signs posted along the way. I will not keep silent, nor be unresponsive. I will not remain hushed, and I will not hesitate to do as I must. And for the benefit of Jerusalem, for the sake of the source of guidance and teaching on reconciliation, I will not rest until her righteous vindication is brought out. As knowledge and enlightenment and deliverance and salvation are like a blazing torch. Yeshaya, Isaiah 62:1. Does it make any difference to you if Yeshaya spoke these words to us, or if Yahweh spoke them and Yeshaya recorded them? Do you know the specific role of a prophet, a Nabi of Yahweh? If you do, you'll know that whether it was Yeshaya who was inspired to say these words on behalf of Jerusalem, on behalf of Zion, on behalf of Israelites, on behalf of the vindication of the entire world, encouraging us to embrace this knowledge and enlightenment and find deliverance and salvation as a result. To be led to the place where we can read these signs by this blazing torch. Whether he spoke them or Yahweh inspired to speak them makes no difference. When Yahweh conveys this message through a prophet, they speak with one voice. And so the beginning of the 62nd chapter of what we call Yeshaya now, Isaiah, begins for the sake of the signs posted along the way. Zion. I will not keep silent, nor be unresponsive. And for the benefit of Jerusalem, the source of guidance and teaching on reconciliation, I will not rest. I will not be inactive until her righteousness, her willingness to do the right thing, to be honest, to be accurate, to be equitable, to be moral, to be correct, and as a result vindicated, are brought out, yatsa, as if it were another Exodus, as knowledge and enlightenment, noga, light and brilliant radiance are delivered. Salvation is attained. She is free and victorious. All like a blazing torch. Yahweh is the God of enlightenment, the God who is transformative and taking us from these physical bodies that are so limited and transforming us into radiant energy so that we are like that blazing torch. And so that with this enlightenment and with this knowledge, by being correct, we can be a blazing torch. Be like that menorah over my shoulder, enlightening God's people such that they know the way home. Follow me. I will take you there. This is the collaborative effort between the Choder and the seven spirits of Yahweh, as guided by Yashayah's textbook on proper chodering. We will vindicate Jerusalem on behalf of Yahweh, enlightening Yahweh's beloved home on earth. And of course, we'll do this in many ways and under many names. The Edom of Torah, bloody red man of the earth, who is productive as a sacrificial bull. As the Bashar, the herald, representing both Yahweh and his beloved son, Dod. As the Nakar, the observant foreigner. As the final Zeroah, one cultivating the seeds of these final ingatherings of Shabuah and Teruah. And indeed, as the one from Edom. So to accomplish God's purpose, the Choder et al. Must share the word of God regarding his people, doing so far and wide. By working together, we serve as the coal, as the pay, as of Yahweh. The coal would be the voice of Yahweh, the pay would be the mouth of Yahweh. And it hasn't been really since going all the way back to Moshe that a man served as the mouth of Yahweh. It's been a long time since a man served as the voice of Yahweh. There are prophets who wrote on behalf of Yahweh. There's Dod who lived in the shadow of Yahweh and was inspired by Yahweh. But it's really been since Moshe that Yahweh spoke mouth to mouth, spoke to his people through a chosen implement. You are listening to the fulfillment of that prophecy now. People from different races and places, nations around the earth, will see. They will witness. They will have revealed to them that you are accurate and honest, readily validated and vindicating, sadak, that you are correct and fair in accordance with the standard, straightforward and consistent, truthful and ethical. And all of those who are thoughtful and who are responsive, those who are receptive and careful in their consideration of the evidence, those willing to accept counsel and leadership, will see your value. Who do you suppose they're talking about? And he will call you by a renewing and restoring name, which, as a benefit of the relationship, the mouth, the pay of Yahowah will designate for him. Who do you suppose? The prophet, Yashayah, and Yahowah are speaking of. They're saying some rather extraordinary things. They begin by saying that this is for the sake of the signs posted along the way between Yahowah's home and Dod up the ridgeline of Moriah, that they will not, whether it's Yashayah or Yahowah, I'm going to use they because it's really both of them, will not keep silent. They will not be unresponsive. They're going to act in this regard. They're going to speak through this individual for the benefit of Jerusalem. They will not rest until Jerusalem is right, until it is vindicated. That has not happened. It is ongoing. This will actually occur on the Shabat of September 24th of 2033 in year 6000 Yah, just 10 days before Yahowah and Dod return. The day of the herald, Towrah. That is when Jerusalem will finally be right with God, vindicated. And there is this final yatsa. This time, it's not so much away from a place like Mitzrayim. It's away from oneself. Israel, God is calling you away from what you have been, who you are at this moment. You are your own worst enemy. He's trying to deliver you from yourselves, and to do that, he has called on this goy to deliver and save you from yourselves. When it comes to your relationship with God, you have become your own worst enemy. And you are exceedingly difficult to awaken, to get to listen. You've got to have the hardest heads in the history of all people around the world. I mean, 3,450 years of persecution, all because you told God to shut up and go away, and then erased his name, and then pretended like you were still the chosen people. Now, God gave up on you. He couldn't find a single one of you who would choose him. And so he was left to communicate to you, to awaken you, to save you from yourselves by a goy. Shouldn't have been that way, but it is. The man is from Edom. He is not from Yehudah. He's not from Yisrael. The one who saves you is the man coming out of Edom. He is a Nakar, an observant foreigner. For the benefit of Jerusalem, I will not rest. I think this is actually in God's voice. I will not rest until she is correct, until she can be vindicated, until she's willing to do the right thing. And that she, Yatsa, experiences an exodus, but this time from herself. Do you know what that means? The exodus is from who you are. so that you can be correct for the first time in 3,400 years, so that you can be vindicated and that you're brought out knowledgeable and enlightened into the light, delivered finally and saved by this blazing torch that Yahweh is bringing into your presence. It's now looking you into the eye, speaking eye to eye, heart to heart, a final melding of the minds, reintroducing you to Yahweh, reacquainting you with your Messiah, Dod, refamiliarizing you with the conditions of the covenant and the path to it through the Mikra invitations to meet with God and to be called out from who you have been. People from all around different places and races that will see, will finally realize, they're going to witness that God is speaking to a single individual. You are accurate, you're honest, you're readily validated, you're vindicating that you, singular, are correct, fair, in accordance with the standards, straightforward and consistent, truthful and ethical, and that those who are thoughtful and responsive, everyone, kol, malak, those who are receptive to this message, who are willing to consider the evidence that is being conveyed by this witness, especially those open to his counsel and advice, will see the value and the one that Yahweh is speaking of, that he is providing, and your honorable nature and subsequent reward, this manifestation of divine power. And he will call you. He will meet with you. He will welcome you. He will summon you. He will kara you by a renewing and restoring name, by a designation, which as a benefit to the relationship, Asher, the mouth of Yahweh will designate for him. I began this by saying that there is a whole lot of titles, names, descriptive monikers that Yahweh has used to describe this man, including the Zeh, Bo, Men, Edom, the one who comes from Edom, the Choder, the sucker from the fallen stump who gives the tree of Yisrael new life, the branch from the tree of lives via the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This club that must be wielded against those who are wrong and deserve recompense. The Bashar, human herald. The Nakar, observant foreigner, who is finally responsive. The Zeroah, one cultivating the seeds that grow into a productive harvest. The Adamah Parah, the bloody red man of the earth, who is ultimately fruitful and productive. And his name is Yada. restoring through knowledge, renewing by providing an awareness as to what really is important, like Yahweh's name, his beloved son, Dod. And so the ultimate restoring name, which as a benefit of the relationship, the mouth of Yahweh will designate for him, is Yada Yahowah. To know, be familiar with, acknowledge, and understand Yahweh. Yashayah, which means Yahweh delivers, Yahweh saves, Yahweh liberates. Isaiah 62:2. Israel remains adrift and in need of a rudder, a propulsion system, a map, a compass. Collectively, if actually a torch to light the way. Collectively, if accepted, all of these things can be deployed to lead them to the crown worn by her king and to a recognition of the name of Israel's God, the doorway to his home, the path he has provided to him. Supporting this effort, directions are being offered by the royal counselor, who is Dod's herald, Yahweh's cold voice. He is making this presentation, quite frankly, out of the palm of Yahweh's hand. He does not come to you on his own initiative. He is not self-supporting. He has no agenda of his own. He seeks no following. He will accept no donations. He will deflect all praise. He is actually a servant, not a leader in his eyes. He serves Yahweh on behalf of Yehudim. Yashayah was inspired to reveal that God's view of this man is much greater than that of his people, although this will change. You will be an honorable and adoring and attractive and metaphysical crown and compass in Yahweh's hand, and a royal counselor in the palm of your God. This is all still singular. You will exist as an honorable, an attractive, metaphorical crown and a compass in Yahweh's hand, and a royal counselor in the palm of your God. Once Yehudim decide to be receptive and to listen, you shall no longer be called abandoned. And concerning your land, no longer will it be called wasted. But instead, you will be called designated and welcomed as Chefsi, my delight. And your land, Ba'ula, married. This is because Yahweh desires you. He wants you. So your land will be wedded in a state of matrimony. The transition from singular to plural is also a transition from azab, being forsaken, and shamara, wasted, to kara, welcomed, and to shefsi, delighted, leading to ba'ula, married, and tibal, wedded, and a state of matrimony. And it's all manifest by the Kadash, the renewing and restoring one, serving as the peh, the mouth of Yahowah on Yom Towrah, the day of the herald. Then the Adamah Parah, the bloody red man of the earth who is productive, will be sacrificed as the red heifer of Numbers 19 to prepare the adulterous woman of Numbers 5 for Yisrael's betrothal and for marriage, metaphorically, to the returning Messiah and King Dowd. Kind of funny in a way. Dowd had 8 wives, and that was at least one too many. And 10 lovers. They're called concubines. You can call them whatever you want, but 18 of them. And now he is going to be betrothed to the entire surviving remnant of Yisrael. I've always known that I would not do well with more than one wife, or with a whole bevy of concubines, and knew that I did not want Dow's job, that I was delighted to serve him, honored to serve him, but didn't want the job of leading Yisrael. It's a tough job. It's a tough job just to awaken Yisrael. Tough job to be his herald. I can't even imagine the responsibility of having that job. I wouldn't want it. But now he is going to be betrothed to all Yisrael. I'm sorry, Dowd, but I can't help but laugh. I'm glad that Yahowah is going to empower you to be essentially God in his presence, because you're going to need that level of capability to be betrothed to all of Yisrael. And I am also delighted that you will have earned the respect of your bride by having fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bokurim to prepare the way for your bride to be perfected. And I am, of course, delighted that I will have earned your respect by being the principal agent that Yahowah will deploy to perfecting the adulterous woman, to cleansing the adulterous woman, so that she is no longer a harlot, a religious harlot. And that, of course, is the purpose of the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah. So it's quite a situation here. I am serving you in this way and providing the means to prepare your bride and to resolve the issues of the adulterous woman as the Adamah Parah. And I get to witness you being betrothed to all Yisrael and giggle in the background and say, boy, am I glad that's not me. But knowing that I made it possible, and this is something that Yahowah has envisioned for you, and now I, of course, will also chuckle and know that there's a reason Yahowah says that when you return, you're going to be Elyon, essentially God in his presence, because you're going to need it. Glad again that it's you. So this is the story that is being told here, and we are working together. Even if I giggle in the background at this moment, knowing that I can assure you that while underlings have typically shown a covetous instinct and a greedy thought that they would like to be the big guy that has that seat of responsibility, I can assure you that Dowd will have no such rival amongst his principal supporter. I am delighted for you, big guy. So, of course, these marriages are symbolic of the reconciliation of the covenant and restoration of God's family, and they're going to be celebrated as such on Yom Kippurim, the day of reconciliations, and the capacity of Dod as now returning as a seven-dimensional being, as brilliant as the sun and God's light, is going to make it possible for him to fill these sandals. The text reads, by way of comparison, a fine man, an exceptional bridegroom, an exemplary individual who is battle-hardened and capable, resilient and strong. Boy, you're going to need it, pal. Marries a virgin, comes to possess in matrimony a Bethulah, a young woman without any sexual experience. Yours. I'm not going to trade with you, pal. No trading here. Your sons shall wed themselves to you. It's of course this is metaphorical. That we're not. Yahweh is not suggesting incest by any stretch of the imagination, but he is saying that we will all be one happy family. That the covenant is, to some degree, a wedding vow, and that it's a marriage commitment where we agree to work together as a family unit. And as you have no doubt heard or figured out, since Dod had 8 wives and 10 lovers, it's not monogamous as it relates to the scope of the human participants. And in this case, my king gets to marry all Yisrael. That away, bud. No better man. So it's not monogamous from that point of view, but it is completely monogamous as it relates to our relationship with Yahweh. So it says, shall wed themselves to you, and the bridegroom, that's you, Dod, I'm sure you figured that out, rejoices and is delighted. And he is delighted for the bride. Your God will be pleased for you. I was talking with my wife this morning, and she came in with this question about when a woman chooses to be at least romantic with you on very early in the relationship, what are your thoughts about that woman? And I said, my thoughts over time have changed. When I was a young man, and I was typical of young men, and I thought that the purpose was to pursue women for that realization, that purpose, that when you achieved it after too early, prior to having developed an appreciation of who they are, and developed a relationship, that it was a very uncomfortable feeling the next morning. I said, but that actually changed for me when I grew up, and when I left a very unhappy marriage after 36 years, and began to experience romance and intimacy and relationships that were mature with women. Because I realized that while there was a process to all this and interaction to all of it, that all of which was meaning, it was no longer a singular pursuit. There was no selfishness in it at all. It was a realization that we wanted the same thing: human contact on a meaningful level, and in a relationship that was intimate on many levels. And that this human contact and the quality of a caring relationship is something we both wanted equally. And so long as we were receptive to that and we sought the same things together, that intimacy was never anything other than part of the positive aspects of relationships and worth celebrating. And so that is the bridegroom, Dode, is actually rejoicing and delighted for the bride, as he should be. She is getting every bit as much out of this as he is. It's for the first time, the adulterous woman is prepared to be queen, to marry her king. It's marvelous. And your God says, and I'm pleased for all of you. Marvelous. Yeshayah, Isaiah 62:5, brought to you by the giggling herald, who is also going to be delighted for everybody that is there, including his king and for himself. My wife, of course, is the producer of this program, and she's also giggling in the background. Now, this is to say that the connection between the sacrifice and the reunion, Towrah and Kippurim, the red heifer and the adulterous woman, are astute. That is precisely the role that this one that Yahweh is designating is performing to achieve this result on behalf of his beloved son and the children of Israel. It says that whether you see it or not, I do, that it's affirmation that I made the correct connection between being the Zeroah of both Shabuah and Yom Teruah, and the Adama Parah of Yom Teruah, as designated in Bamidbar 19 for the benefit of Numbers 5, so as to reconcile the relationship between Yahweh and his children and Dode and Yisrael before the wedding ceremony and family reunion on Yom Kippurim is an accurate picture of what God is painting. That's why I'm sharing it with you. And it is here that we find the preamble to the story of how the one from Edom is going to save a great many. Only one ever designated as such, as saving a great many. Upon your walls, Jerusalem, because guess where all of this is taking place? It is indeed in Jerusalem. This is, we're all gathered around the Temple Mount. Temple Mount at this point is gushing forth in torrents of dancing waters, cleansing waters. There's this enormous spectacle of flames racing up to the heavens that Yahweh has ignited. Now, it's a funeral pyre over my mutilated body, but besides that part, I'm now separated. Soul is separated from the Bashar, so I'm there enjoying the scene as well. But Jerusalem has turned into the greatest show on earth. And the showman is the greatest showman in the history of humanity. It's Elia. He is the master of ceremonies for this great event. And upon your walls, Jerusalem, I will summon and determine the number of observant. Yahweh is calling his people home, those who are willing to shamar for the first time, closely examine and carefully consider what is all being revealed in this massive show of Yahweh's divine influence over his city. And your walls are finally going to reflect the goodness of your God. And they are no longer going to reflect your recalcitrance. Because you cannot be observant unless you're responsive. And all day and all night, they will continuously exist, never inactive or silent, and always remembering that those who associate with Yahowah are never silenced. They're never inactive regarding you. This is the great reawakening, the homecoming, the family reunion, the ultimate betrothal of what was the adulterous woman, now perfected and cleaned by way of Teruah, so that Yom Kippurim happens in year 6,000 Yah. We're now celebrating this great family reunion on October 2nd, October 2nd, 6:22 p.m. as the sun sets in Jerusalem. The 2nd of October, 2033, or 6,000 Yah, 120th Yobel year. This is the most amazing spectacle in the history of our planet. It is the return of the Creator God of the universe with his beloved Son, our King, Daud. So all day and all night, they will continuously exist, never inactive, never silent again, always remembering, never forgetting, constantly recalling. And Zakar is also the memorable man that those who associate with Yahowah, this memorable man in particular, he's never going to be silenced. He will never stop. He is the ultimate energizer bunny of awakening Israel. All for you. Yeshaya 62:6. There has been a long silence, but the words once spoken here are long remembered, and they will echo off her stones yet again. The voice of God has been silent, but he will not remain so. Yahowah is addressing his people even now as he speaks through his chosen Pei and Kol. And so, you should not allow him to be silenced, neither inactive nor stopped. You should not cause him to be incommunicative, silenced or overwhelmed, or even pause or rest. Striving as he seeks to be this witness, effective for you. Don't allow anyone to impede his progress or to censure his message. Do not permit anyone to stop him. Call imperfect, Joseph, with Nathan being negated, either the observant spokesperson, free will be curtailed for a moment, or there will be no pause in the work or cessation of the communication. Or the prophet is communicating that God will ensure that no one silences or interrupts him. I think there's a little bit of all of this here, in that God has a lot riding on this. He has a countless malach surround here that probably don't even need to turn on the lights to broadcast this program. He has his 7 spirits inside of his chosen implement to convey his message. Nothing on earth could stop him. Nothing. The world could go ahead and inspire that nuclear war that is trying to cause with Russia. Or it could allow Iran to develop their nuclear bomb, and it could be set off, and it would be no phasing either Jerusalem or the implement Yahowah has called to call you home. And this continues as he prepares the enduring and restoring testimony, the ad kun, and causes through the eternal witness, wa'ad sim, that he has placed in Jerusalem, to be considered worthy, appreciated, laudable throughout the earth. Yahowah, Isaiah 7. This is really an extraordinary moment of time where Yahweh is going all in with this individual that he is going to use for the benefit of his people. And so you should never allow him to be silenced, never impede his progress as he prepares the enduring and restoring testimony and causes through this eternal witness, Jerusalem, to be considered praiseworthy again throughout the earth. So no matter how much God wants resolution, regardless of how vociferous the witness, nor the degree the testimony is restorative, until and unless Israel listens, our collective efforts will be like clouds that soar over the desert bereft of rain, simply teasing God's people. But should you change? New life, the restored and eternal variety, will take root. It will grow. It will thrive. And for this purpose, Yahweh's long intermission and silence will finally be resolved, restoring the relationship through the restoring witness, whose voice will reverberate throughout the earth, at least among those who are willing to listen. We know this to be true because Yahweh has promised to provide a final Zeroah to cultivate the most productive of harvests. Yahweh, an accurate presentation of the name of our Elohah God, as guided by his Torah instructions regarding his Haya existence, has made a promise, Shabat. By his right hand and with his empowered and fortified Zeroah. His capable arm, who sows and cultivates the seeds of the harvest and seeks to shepherd the flock. Zeroah, one of, if not the single most important titles used throughout the Torah and prophets, a title that heretofore, prior to Yada Yahowah, no one recognized. The Zeroah was considered nothing more than a bone tossed on the Passover plate on rabbinical instructions. And yet, there really is no more important title. It was afforded to three people. Moshe, we're told, was a Zeroah by Yahshua. He was the strong arm that led the flock of Yisrael out of Mitzrayim into the promised land. Dod was the ultimate Zeroah in the sense that he was, as the Torah defines Zeroah, the sacrificial lamb of Pesach. He's the ultimate shepherd, guiding the flock. And I am the third. And that the Zeroah is based upon Zerah, which speaks of sowing seeds that, when cultivated, lead to a productive harvest. And I am the Zeroah of Shabuah and of Towrah, the final two ingatherings. These are the three Zeroah. And so Yahweh is saying here that Yahweh himself has made a promise, and he always honors his promise, a sworn oath. The truth by this statement, upon approaching the meaning of 7 and the Shabbat. And of course, the Towrah harvest is on the Shabuah harvest is on a Shabbat. The Towrah harvest is on a Shabbat. The beginning of the millennial Shabbat of Sukkah is on a Shabbat. And there are how many Moed Mikre? 7. How many lights are there on that candelabra called a menorah? 7. So Yahweh has made a promise by his right hand. And with his empowered and fortified, through his resolute and unwavering, with his bold and forceful, with his prevailing Zeroah, capable arm who sows and cultivates the seeds of the harvest and shepherds the flock. Yashayah, Isaiah 62:8. It's the most empowering distinction, the most meaningful designation that Yahweh can afford a person is to be a Zeroah. It is a responsibility that is so great it is almost crippling, the weight of it. I can tell you, I've experienced the weight of it. I have witnessed Moshe at times crumble under the weight of it. We've all witnessed Dode stumble on the weight of it, the burden of it. It sounds grand to be used by God and to be in that company, and it is a great honor. There's nothing that is more important, more valuable, more rewarding, more enjoyable than serving Yahweh and his people this way. But I'm here to tell you, Israel, you're a tough audience. You treated Moshe like crap. You treated Dode poorly during his life, and far worse in his second. You won't get that opportunity to treat him poorly in his third, I can assure you. The burden of being responsible for cultivating the seeds that lead to a productive harvest of people who don't want anything to do with Yahweh. It's tough. But we're never going to give up. We will prevail with a meaningful number of you, and if not even a significant number, although I think the number is significant based upon the text that Yahweh reveals pursuant to the man from Edom. It is a great number. Far more important is the quality of the individuals who will be there. So this is the conclusion of Yashayah, Isaiah 62. And in our next program, we're going to transition into more of this text. And we're going to actually step backwards into Yashayah, Isaiah 53, because, well, there the great prophet asks, before revealing one of the most profound insights in human history, as to whether or not anyone has been able to determine the identity of the three Zeroah. Now, I just told you who they are. But prior to me telling you who they are, nobody even knew that there was a Zeroah, much less three of them. And so Yashayah in the 53rd chapter, is going to specifically ask the question, do you know who this person is? Because until you know who that individual is who has determined that Zeroah is a title and it applies to three men, you're not in a position to appreciate which follows, which is how the Lamb of God carried our guilt away. And it was because we have all gone astray. And what that pertains, how that pertains to Dode and how he fulfilled Chag Matzah after honoring the promise of Pesach and opening the doorway to life. So I'm going to leave you at this point. I know it's a bit of a cliffhanger, but maybe that'll bring us all back together as we open with part 2 of the man from Edom, that according to God saves many. I thank you for listening. I am Yada, and this has been an episode of the YAHOWAH blog.